I made a bet Jesus could be the odds. He can shine through me cause I'm the son of God. Don't feel nobody, I'm rockin' feel God. Can't rob with two cause I ain't feeling God. I made a bet Jesus could be the odds. He can shine through me cause I'm the son of God.
Man, how you guys doing today, man?
I'm doing good, man. It's a beautiful morning. Well, it's 1:30 now, but we've been at it since the morning. We're just coming from a prayer meeting that went pretty well.
It's not bad. It's not bad. So I want to give people some context as to who you are before we get into the context of what we're going to talk about and everything. So I wanted to, any of you two can jump in. I want you guys to introduce yourself, and I want you to say and give a spin on who you were before Christ and who you are in Christ.
Wow. Okay, I'll let Kendall go ahead and start.
Okay. Well, I'm Kendall, also known as Kano. I'm currently a Christian rapper. Previously in the world, I used to rap as well and just do anything that was involved in the world that wasn't that normal Christians now wouldn't do, you know. But
if you like that, yeah.
I'm proud of where I came, and I'm grateful that God put me here because I feel like I can be used as a bridge to inspire the people that are still in the world that you can still be who you are and be new in Christ.
Right.
And that's me. So Kendall, also known as Kano.
Oh, that's my brother Kendall, and I'm Antonio Pierre Lewis. And well, previously to finding Christ, or him finding me about a year ago, June 10th, 2023 is when we got baptized. Man, looking back,
2010?
2023.
2023.
Yeah.
So we all got baptized recently.
Yeah,
I got baptized that same year in February.
But so much has happened in that little time frame.
It seems like 10 years.
Awesome.
Bro,
It's been chapters and different seasons. So much has happened. But as I was saying, previously to finding Christ, looking back now, as I reflect, I can say that I was a complete mess. You know, it's hard to have that perspective until you find the truth and find the idea and ordination he has for us, who he's called us to be. But as I look back, man, I was indulging in all of the wrong stuff. Negative mindset, conform to social norms and culture. And even now, I've just been going through this season. You know, our minds are constantly being renewed. So I've been going through these seasons and tests of getting to a place where it's more Christ-centered and he's the big picture. He's the goal always. So yeah, I've come from, man, he's developed me in so many ways, not to go on a tangent, but I've come from a shy, quiet guy who, even being here, is unfamiliar for me, speaking and all of that, to where he's built up my confidence. He's made me a man who takes every opportunity to glorify him. That's one aspect. The sinful, adulterous life I used to personally live in the past, he's changing that. There's just so many development that's happened that it would seem impossible to get here, you know what I mean? But Christ he's able to do the impossible. He's able to do anything. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. So, like, give us the moment. I know it's usually a nice story when you talk about how you either found your first church, how you first came to knowing Christ. Can you guys talk about that in a sense?
Right.
Like, because sometimes it kind of just happens where it's like you're in here, you're going to church, and you find yourself going every Friday or whenever you have service, and then it kind of just happens. Like, how is that for the two of you?
Well, I would say, it's the testimony in itself. So it kind of all started when I was in a relationship, of course, in the world. I would say 2022. I was in a relationship in the world, and I had just previously got out of a kind of a traumatizing relationship for me before then. So I went through like a month worth of phase of just like silence, and then I ended up getting in this relationship. So I would say December 2022 in this relationship, the person that I was with was kind of going through like friendship trouble. And growing up, I mean, I didn't grow up in the church or nothing like that. I just grew up. I knew God was the Almighty, and I just knew to pray. Like, you feel me? I kind of like taught myself how to pray. Nobody taught me how to pray. I probably been to church maybe literally a handful of times to the point where it's like,
it's real.
Like, to the point where it's like maybe I'm at a friend's house and their mom they're strict about church on Sunday, and I spent the night over there. So that was my occasions in church. That was the time that I've been in church, like the only couple of times.
So you was like forced because you was there by circumstance.
Yeah. So I also went to a church summer camp though. Like growing up, I went to a church summer camp for like 5 years, but it was a summer camp. It wasn't church. It was strictly summer camp. I didn't know nothing.
So what's the difference between church and church summer camp? Because I never been to one before.
I can't speak for all church summer camps, and I'm not speaking down on the one that I went to because I think they were trying to honor a child's mind, and not necessarily because maybe they didn't. Well, my thoughts on it, they could have kind of like did it the way they did it, because we probably wouldn't seriously receive it. You know what I'm saying? Like take it serious and just to kind of keep us in a child's place, and they know what we would pay attention to and what we would like. So they taught us academics. The morning in the summer camp was school. So if I'm in the 3rd grade, I'm learning my 4th grade work before I get into the 4th grade in the summer.
So
it's in the afternoon, it was like that was like real summer camp time where it's like you do the fun stuff, the games and stuff like that. And they also had this thing called micro. So during micro, it was like you had a job. You could either work at the arcade, you could work at the bank, you could work at a restaurant, you could work at the post office, and they would set the summer camp up as like that, and everybody would have a job. You get paid. That was their way of teaching us like responsibility, which I value now because it was just fun to us then, but I value it so much now because it's like it was their way of teaching us responsibility. You could use this, you could buy this, like at a child age. So it ranged from like maybe kindergarten to like 8th grade, maybe I believe, or 7th grade. But yeah, I didn't really grow up in foundation, but I had an auntie who would always like speak the bit of word that she knew. I had grandmas and stuff that would speak the bit of word that they knew into me, and it would instill in me. So it used to be aggravating at a time when people like kind of like repeat themselves so much. Yeah. But that's how you get instilled. Like you don't know until like you see like, dang, I've heard this person say this so many times. I heard scriptures that they said so many times that I come across in the Bible that I can almost correct now because like I see the reality of what the scripture means now.
It weighs a lot heavier.
Like so,
read it for yourself.
So she laid that little bit of word on me, and I was able to relay that to the woman that I was dating at the time because she was going through friendship issues, and I was able to give her that piece of word that was enough for her to take it captive because she grew up in the church, so she had at least more foundation than I did. So her taking that word captive, she took it a lot more serious. So she got the YouVersion Bible app in December 2022, and just bits and pieces just started diving in on our Olo tip. Now mine, I was still, though I dropped that word on her, I was still living in the world doing. I just kind of was given a word of encouragement. I didn't think it was gonna make a drastic change in any sorts of way. I thought everything was gonna go back to normal. I'm just trying to uplift her spirit as the man I was. You feel me? So
she started finding Christ, and then that's when you started finding Christ.
So she started finding Christ, and she started taking Christ a little more serious. I would say at January 2023. That's when she started taking it serious. She wanted to start being obedient. Like there's the molding that has to get done before you yourself just dive all the way in. So that's what was happening. So we was she and I can honestly say that it probably came from spiritual warfare. Like God was laying on her spirit heavy. Like He wanted her. And I just got a glimpse of it because sometimes you can't really express that in the best way, especially living in the world, because it's like you don't know how this person will receive it. Some people will like get mad at you. Some people will like not necessarily accept who you're trying to become. You know what I'm saying? So, but I was so down for the relationship that her telling me this, I knew it was going to come to a point that it was like, dang, I'm still doing what I'm doing. Like I'm still, in the streets doing this, that. I'm going to be a distraction to this girl. But I like her a lot. You know what I'm saying? At the time, I liked her a lot. So I'm like, dang, I'm gonna be a distraction to her. So I gotta do something to at least, postpone or just to savor this relationship. That was my mindset at the time. Meanwhile, she was diving deeper into going for God all the way. Like I don't want nothing but God, Jesus Christ. So she so as time going on, she starts to want to be more obedient. She starts to want to leave certain things in the world that we made that may have been sprouting down. She wanted to, and she telling me this stuff.
That's real. That's tough to take,
right?
Like, because finding Christ and like while you're in a relationship, it's tough because your spouse or your significant other still wants to fornicate or do things of the world. So it's like it causes tension. You guys are not equally yoked at that point. Yeah, man. Go ahead.
So spiritual warfare was going on. So it's like. Mind you, but honestly, it wasn't causing crazy tension because I was down. I never once put her down about the situation. Though I was living in the world, though I probably wasn't for what she was on yet, I was never like, because I always knew, like in the back of my mind, I always knew I'm like, I can't never put down if she going for God. Like I know, like who am I to put down that you going to go do the right thing? Like that's like at that point, like I'm letting the enemy use me. Of course, me not knowing that at the time, but I would be letting the enemy use me in a situation like that. So
it's crazy how you have this discernment for that at the beginning, and that's part of what I want to talk about. I want to talk about discernment, testing of the spirits, carrying the fruit of the spirits. But yeah, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, so she took it captive and she started reading her word, man. She started diving in a whole 100%. She found a podcast. I'm not sure if you know the women
It's at the tip of my mind.
Yeah, they're sisters, and they got a brother too. And his testimony even really helped me out a lot too.
Do they have like a clothing brand or something?
Yeah, they have a clothing brand.
Are you talking about Growing Pains?
No.
Close.
Growing Pains,
that's real close though.
But you know, like they have the Wise Label brand. Is that it?
Yeah. I know verse they use currently, so that's probably
they're sisters too.
Blessed is she who believes.
Yeah,
so that's the verse they use.
Yeah, and they just had like a She's conference.
Dang, what is
the name is Rainaya is one of the sisters' names. Rainaya is one of the sisters' names, and then
So she found that podcast.
Yeah, so she found that podcast, and she started, and it's like they're from down here, they're from Miami, so like she started diving in more. She found that podcast, and then she was just growing closer with God. They had like
is this one of the hosts?
No, that's not her.
Okay, no, never mind. Because that you reminded me of another podcast, and I went to a podcast summit, and I met somebody that had the same.
Sometime throughout this episode, it's gonna come to mind.
No worries. After I'm gonna just put it up on this. Post that.
Yeah. So they had that podcast, and then so she was joining like their women's like Bible studies on Wednesday, and she even sent me the men's Bible study. And
oh wow, that's crazy. Yeah. She's like, I'm planting seeds.
Right. So she planted the seed so smooth, dog. It's crazy.
That's crazy.
She planted the seed so smooth. That's one thing I could honor, because she never once dropped it on me. She never once said like, "Oh, come do this with me."
I want to make this one comment on that. It's because many times when we find Christ, granted, sometimes we have to leave the relationship.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's as soon as we start getting convicted and there's a lot of tension, we realize we're not equally yoked. We do that. But many times, some of us won't even try to plant seeds or anything. We try to do that afterwards, when sometimes doing that afterwards, they're not going to be able to receive the seeds the same way. They're gonna look at that seed with resentment and all these things. But I like how she was doing that in it, and that caused you to find Christ and to see.
Let's come back to that. Remember to come back to that, because I have something to say.
Yeah, we can write it down. Yeah, let's write it down. But yeah, so she was planting those little seeds. She was sending me like even like testimony videos and stuff like that, but never once saying like, "Hey, come do this with me," or "You should do this," or anything like that. That never once came out of her mouth or anything like that. She was doing it for her own, and I honored that, because her asking me, I'm not sure if she knew, but her asking me, I would have just did it, but just for her. You know what I'm saying? Like, because she wanted me to do it, not because I wanted to do it. Yeah. And that's what it's about. It's a self decision that you have to make, because you can't go into something like, for somebody else, because if that person isn't there anymore and you were in it for somebody else, you may no longer want to be in that space, in the space of God. So she was diving in a whole 100%, and I was kind of like slowly following behind her. So I was putting things down that I was doing that I didn't want to be a distraction, because I know, so if I'm leaving the house, she had my location. So if I'm leaving the house and she see me gone, she know I'm making some type of play. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I didn't want to be a distraction.
Hey, a play, for some of y'all don't know, it's just like an opportunity. A play is another word for an opportunity.
An opportunity, yeah. So unfortunately, I was making opportunities at the time, and she knew about it already prior, because I mean, you know what I'm saying, we was together. So I was trying to I knew I couldn't mask it, because the way that it was going at the time was just fluctuating. And that's how the enemy worked, because I was trying to stop. So it was stuff that I didn't even notice at first that I had already put down, but that I didn't notice that God was already working in me from the time of December that I didn't really have a care for. But you know, when you put one thing down, something else arises. Like you stop smoking, but you start drinking heavily now. Like it's something that was always there. So I stopped doing one thing and I was still doing another opportunity. So when I doing that, I kind of wanted to put it down because I didn't want to be a distraction to her. So me putting it down, I had like people that kind of like worked for me and stuff like that. So me putting it down, kind of it wasn't as hard as I thought, honestly, because when I did do it, I didn't know that I was walking around with such weight on my shoulders. The moment I put it down, I felt the sense of relief. And it's crazy because as I put it down, it still kept trying to come. Though I wasn't leaving the house no more, it was coming to my house. It still wanted to find its way to me.
It be like that.
You know
like I
saying?
stopped smoking. The next thing you know, everybody around me is like, "Hey, you want to do this? You want to do this? Oh, I found this. Let's do it." I'm like, "Oh man, Oh, devil works many ways, man."
So. Like and even the opportunity I was making, some would even argue that it's probably not considered sin, but at the same time it's like whatever you provide, if whatever you're providing is an idol, then you know what I'm saying,
whether it's an idol, whether
you're being used to, whether you're the middleman or whatever the case may be. So that's how I always looked at it. So I put it down and I still was smoking at the time though, and she would get, it was almost like prophecies. Like she would get like feelings in her heart that I'm hiding something from her. You know what I'm saying, Mike? Because I'm feeling bad because I'm like, dang, I'm still smoking. Even though I put this down, I put that down, I'm still smoking though. Like, and like I was trying so hard not to be a distraction. Like I wouldn't smoke on the phone or something like that. Stuff that I usually do. I wouldn't smoke on the phone.
You're trying to hide it.
Like, I'm trying to hide it. So she feel like I'm like,
it felt like you was walking on eggshells in the way.
Yeah. Right? So when she said that, I'm like, dang, like you know what I'm saying. So long story short, like we end up like having to kind of like grow apart. It was never like any bad energy, no bad blood. We didn't argue out of it. It wasn't a bad conversation we had that separated us. It was kind of like we wouldn't have been able to grow with God together because I would have still been I probably would have still been a distraction to her, though she's growing for Christ on her own, and I would have been doing it for her. I would have never got the chance to meet Christ on my own. I would have got a chance to meet Christ with her.
Yeah, and I feel like that's good that you said that because many times we try to associate somebody with our relationship to Christ.
Right.
God did that, so when she like say if she were to pass, God forbid, or anything like that, she would pass with your relationship with Christ.
Wow.
So you have to find it for you have to find it for yourself, so it's not associated to anybody, because then she's looked at as like an idol, even though it's not really. But she has that type of weight when she's gone, or if any bad blood happens between the two of you, all that can cause a spiral. So God did that for a purpose.
And we were just speaking to foundations. That matters. It's not to say you're in total error, but that thing however you found Christ, however you decided to walk to that altar, that matters. When we come to God as broken and lost as we are, that foundation has to soon transition into it being in totality Him. You know what I mean? So whether I came here for a better life, I came here for a peace of mind, joy, whatever that reason and that inspiration behind me coming to God was, that's great. It's not a sin. It's not a problem. But very soon we have to mature and get to a place where Christ is the center. So now, when life gets shaken, when things happen, we're firm on Him and we're not just easily moved.
So how was that for you? Like, how was he mentioned his journey? How was that journey for you on how you came to knowing Christ?
That's interesting. So were you done yet?
So well, that was kind of towards the end. So basically, how I from there on, I mean, I got the seeds planted in me, to watch the testimony videos. I was trying solely for of course, the relationship, of course, because I wanted to savor it. I didn't want it to perish. You know what I'm saying? So I was trying. I was watching testimony videos that were related to me. People that found Christ and they lived the street life, or people that found Christ and traumatic things happened to them. I watched so many testimony videos and stuff like that, and to the point where I wanted God so much. So like, it's funny that the fact that the person I'm actually in a relationship with now is the reason that we're at the church.
Wow.
So she posted a video. We all went to the same high school together. She posted a picture of a discipleship class that my church does. It's a discipleship class, like a 8-week course that you go through. You know, you learn about who Jesus is and how to be a Christ follower. And I was like, I want to be a Christ follower, and they got like a little award for it. So I'm like, I also want an award for it. So I'm like, okay, boom. So
the incentive gets them, you know.
Yeah. Hey, yo, that's the key. That's one thing we should touch on too, because like those are key things that you can not necessarily use as a manipulation, but use for factor to draw people into Christ. Things that you know that they relate to, things that you know that they find. You know
interesting or
interesting or something like that. Yeah. So I found that interesting at the time, and I asked her about it. She was like, "Oh yeah, this is cool church." She already went to the church for probably about a year because the church was a branch off. So she already went to the church and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, cool. I signed up for the discipleship class that ended up being in May. This was about April. By April time, I wasn't in a relationship no more. I was probably still in a relationship a little bit in March, but April 2023 wasn't in a relationship no more. I'm transitioning into following Christ. So I'm still smoking too, by the way. So March is when the discipleship class starts. Discipleship class starts in March. So I tell Tony about it. I'm like, okay, boom, like we could start this together. So boom.
Gotcha.
So boom. So
that's how it started. Now I get it.
Yeah. So we started. So we want to get a taste of this before we actually go. So we start watching the church online. So it's like, I think one of the first services we watched was probably like the Easter service. So we're watching the service online, or the service before Easter, one of them. So we're watching the service online and stuff like that. And I remember around the time I used to go fishing with my dad. So it's me, my brother, and my dad.
Hey, I love that. I'm a fisherman.
I want you to teach me.
Yeah.
I want you to teach me.
We can get together, bro. Like for real, bro. So boom.
What's up?
Fishing was never really like my forte, but like my dad was kind of like he kind of like shelters himself like from like the rest of the family, and that was my brother way of fellowshipping like with my dad, you know what I'm saying? Like not like it was that's his way of going out his way to like hang with him, because he know that he likes that. Same thing like how we were saying, he know that he likes that, so he know that that's how he could get him out the house.
Wow.
So boom, we go fishing. It's to the point where my brother even like, you know, I didn't have much of a care for it. I guess it was like growing up, but I'm finding myself like finding interest in it, and now I know how to fish and stuff like that. So I'm fishing, smoking, watching the sermon. So like, you know what I'm saying? I'm smoking, watching the
Y'all
sermon.
gotta start somewhere.
Hey, I mean, Peter was doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Peter was a worldly man when he was fishing. You know?
Yeah. So I'm in April, and then my brother walk up to me. He like he know what I'm trying to do in a way, because he know like I ain't like, he know like, so he like, dang, bro, you smoking, watching church, bro, and stuff like that. I kind of like, that's when I like that was when the conviction came, because I already felt a little convicted about it, but it needed to be bold conviction that I needed. You know what I'm saying?
They needed to call you out. Yeah.
And that's what it was right there. So he was joking, because it's like, you know, we all like my dad, my brother, all of us smoke. So it's like he joking, but he like he low-key checking me a little bit, like, okay, like hey, you smoking watching the sermon. I ain't know
and that's
like,
interesting, because he's not all the way in yet.
Yeah, he not like, if anything, like at all. Like it's the same thing like me. I know God, you feel me? I pray. You know, I probably been in church a couple of times, but same thing. So it's like, boom. So that happened. So next thing you know, after a while, oddly, before I actually attended the church my first time, which I believe was May 21st.
Yeah, it was in May.
May 21st. It was May 21st was our first day attending the church in person. So oddly, a week before that, I had stopped smoking. I tried to stop smoking towards the end of towards the end of April. I stopped for 4 days, and I copped some more weed after that. On my way to go get that weed was the biggest conviction of my life.
Wow.
The biggest conviction of my life, because I was mad on the way to go get it, because God was renewing my heart at the time, because it was like I like it in me. It just felt wrong. It felt like I was going to the weed of reliance, and it's not like and I always used to say like I could stop anytime I want. I could stop this, you know, anytime I want. But I didn't know until I actually stopped. I was using anything as an excuse.
Yeah.
I had friends that died at the time, literally in April. I had a friend that died, and I went to my friend's house with a bag of weed, you know, to comfort him, like, you know what I'm saying, like to smoke with him, like, cause like I know he down at the time. That's his big brother. His big brother just died, so it's like, damn, bro, I want to go sit with bro and like, you know, comfort him at the time. So I was using anything as an excuse to go back to it.
Yeah.
So that one time I went to cop in April at the end, and I felt that conviction. I would say May 14th was Mother's Day. That was my last day smoking, because I could no longer smoke comfortably. Wow. I was smoking in conviction, and it just never sat right with me.
So what was that conviction or that revelation that you had that it was truly wrong? Was it just because he told you, hey, you're smoking, watching church. Like, what about it was that revelation? Because I found from my spiritual father, he said you can't really stop or truly repent from something if you don't know the revelation behind it.
Right.
So what was that for you? What was the root of that conviction?
So the root of that conviction, it actually wasn't watching church, but that I was in reliance of it. Like that I wanted this and that I was, and I didn't think that I was using it as a coping measure, but in a way I was using it as a coping measure, and I kind of felt like as if, and just another point to it was a part of my past. So if I'm gonna be renewed, how could I be somebody new if I'm still hanging on to something that was a part of my past? Things opportunities that I made that was a part of my past. This still has a stronghold on me. If I was still doing this, that could have led me into going back into making opportunities. You know
because I heard you said reliance, but that right there.
Yeah.
That right there.
So I will feel like that was that reason that I had to, like, it just in my heart I couldn't take it no more. Like if I'm like anybody that smokes, they smoke at comfort to calm their mind and stuff like that. I'm smoking like in like fear and like anxiety, like it's not sitting right with me no more. So it's like,
and then after that conviction, after everything, that was when you truly found God. Now that led you on the journey you are in now, the discipleship course and everything.
Yeah, we went to church together that 21st, a week after that, and we never missed. We in the church.
It's crazy how it just happens. You just never miss a service.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Once you get a taste of God and I'm gonna elaborate. So
I feel like you're missing out.
Of Christ.
I feel like you're missing out.
Once you get a taste of Christ, right? Sorry. Once you get a taste of Christ, awesome. But also the fellowship of community. And meeting people who see things in you that you don't see in yourself. People that can inspire and encourage you after a tough week. You walk into church on Sunday and you're just, you're rubbing off on people and you guys are just growing together. That keeps you. Like once you get a taste of that, you don't go back. But continue.
No,
lastly, I would even say, like, to add value to what you were saying, we just came from a men's council that spoke on a friend. That's the part that woman played, because she was being a good friend, and though she was being a good friend and walked and we separated from the relationship, she separated from the relationship for a good reason that I didn't understand at the time. And me being the person that was willing. That's a great thing to be just willing. I was willing to understand, like, who is Jesus? Who is this person that has that separated this good thing in my life that I thought at the time was but that this good thing in my life that separated it. Who is this person that she wanted to follow so eagerly, so much? That's what made me so eager to follow Jesus. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, wow, who is this? Like, so that's basically like the testimony of some of the story. Like, that and he's my friend. Like even what they talked about today, a friend will have the same core values as each other and just we'll be on the same frequency level. So the fact that I wanted it more and he had foundation, he was like, damn, bro, I don't mind going into this with you, bro. Like,
so you mentioned a friend. So was that the same for you and how you came to truly knowing Christ versus knowing of him?
Testimony?
Yeah.
Well, our testimony is completely different, but then as we go deeper into it, it starts to align. Where me, I'm the opposite. I'm Haitian. I come from a Haitian background. We know what that means.
You're not Haitian?
No, I'm American.
Oh God, I thought you both were Haitian. Okay, no worries.
Association.
Yeah, respect.
So, Haitian, we know what that means. Sunday morning, live it, get up, it's time to go to church. Exactly, the 3 L's. So, that's what I grew up with. That's my foundation of being dragged to church and having to, be in that setting. But honestly, previously to actually getting to know God, I don't believe I picked up much. I don't believe that I really retained anything because I was just there, childish, focused on other things. So I believe to about high school, that's when things kind of fell apart a little bit as far as going to church, where life got more hectic than it already was. Mom had to work extra hours, things of that sort. So she wasn't dragging me to church as much. So I went through a large gap period of a couple of years of not necessarily going to church. And of course, I got more lost. I was more.
Yeah, be like that. Be like that.
I started to develop an identity that he didn't necessarily give me. I was, as you're going through things, you're going through trauma, you're going through all of these different life lessons, but you're not going through it with the teacher, the one who's going to help you guide you and give you, he's going to help use those things to shape you into who you're supposed to be. When instead go through it with the world, go through it with the influences of the world. So now that's the pattern you're conforming to. So with that, a couple years away from church, I'm already I'm my own person. Mm-hmm. I've turned to be someone that is sinful and just partaking in things that God didn't necessarily have for me. So I believe this was around pandemic time, or I'm not sure which grade this was, 11 or 12. I had the foundation, fortunately, of going to church. So me trying to be mature and be a better man, because just something about growing up, I've had these instances where God would constantly remind me that you're somebody. You have meaning. I've chosen you, similar to what he told Jeremiah. Before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you. So that I just know someone listening to this can feel this, but I just had this sense of, man, you're better than this. There's more out there for you. But yeah.
So from what I'm hearing, your journey was relationship, and your journey was identity.
Yeah. That's perfect. Yeah, you can say that.
So when you said you realized you was more or less seeking or carrying the wrong identity, give me some more context as to that. Like what did that look like when you was not being true to the identity God gave you after knowing it when you found Christ?
That's such a good question, bro. And honestly, so just going back to my testimony, I don't have an exact testimony I can point to. The way I found Christ and truly committed to him, it was a series of events. I was going through these things that would always point me back to him, because he's that good. He's always using every opportunity. If we fail option A, he already is pulling out option B to bring us back to restoration. So I'll say one of the closest things that I experienced to shake me out of this person he didn't call me to be was similar to him, a relationship, but not just a relationship. It was a couple of things. I have an entrepreneur's heart, so I was building things, establishing those. But
prosperity is going to come in the kingdom of the Lord, man. Straight up.
I was doing all of those things without the source, so they worked out. I loved it. Things were really prospering for a time. Then there came a season where God, in his goodness, I can say that now, in his goodness, everything came coming down. Everything. I had a mobile car wash, a detailing company with my brother. We then from there transitioned into doing Airbnbs. Things were going great. That was the goal. That I was building upon that, and that was the vision I had so far.
So that was before, or that was as you were finding Christ?
Before all of these things kind of transitioned right into finding Christ. Those things, those businesses, those things I was building fell. I went through a period of time trying to restore it.
Before, and all this is before. I just want to
my own understanding. I'm like, I know what's in me. I have, like, God, it's ingrained in me. So I know I'm supposed to build things and create an opportunity for my family and others. Yeah, nothing was working out. No matter what business deals, no matter what meetings and things I was having, nothing would bear fruit. It all would just, there was a block. Like God, I found out later, was protecting me. So we bring in a relationship. Growing up, I didn't necessarily find I got caught up in the whole player mentality, and it's not something I necessarily took joy or pride in. But what happened was, I was coming from my own trauma. I was coming from my own brokenness that I didn't fix and heal. I didn't go through the proper process, so now I'm bleeding out on others. We got to a specific situation. I was dealing with a young lady from Tallahassee, and things moved very fast. We were seeing each other, all of that stuff. She's not a bad person. Everything was working out, and then we started to run into some things. God used that as a way of revealing to me what's inside of you, what's inside of me. So so everything started off well. I didn't go into this relationship with good intentions. I was just winging it, bad mindset. I was winging it. And
with everything, you gotta have a vision.
You have to have a
even
vision.
relationship. That's one thing that I learned my first month. Crazy, my first month in God. Within everything, you gotta have a vision, and a vision is not something it's not a goal. It's something that you stay under and follow.
Seriously. Foundation. I believe that word is key for today. Foundation. So finally, me having the issues that I have of not wanting a relationship, wanting to be in seclusion and not necessarily tied to anything, because I thought it was cool at the time, but in reality I was broken. I didn't see enough value in myself to then want to be valued by others. So arguments started to break out, things started to happen, and I took that as my way out. You know what I mean? Like I stretched it when I could have forgiven, when I could have worked it out and restored that, mend that relationship. I took my opportunity. Looking back, and God's been revealing to me that you were running away. Correct. So I did that, but in my selfishness, what I wasn't picking up at the time is this isn't about you. I was hurting that person as well.
And now this is still before, right? This is got you. So you learned God was teaching you these things once you got into Him. Got you. Okay.
Yeah. It took maturity. I had to get into a place where I really sat down and looked at myself in the mirror and understood, like, just looking at the patterns. This person I'm using because they're closer to the breakthrough, but this was a repeated thing. You know.
That cycle kept happening.
My good, yeah. Just getting caught up in stuff that would be meaningless, no purpose to it. So I slipped my way. I crushed the person. I personally think, and it's just at first this was a journey. I didn't take much accountability for it. I just I charged it to something that didn't work out. All of that, it happens. No, there was work to need to be done. So along the way, because God then threw me into a wilderness season where everything was shut down. As I said, businesses were shut down, but also like the access to all of these things that we were in a pandemic around the time, not even a pandemic, but we were coming from the overflow of that. I mean, this was 2022, 23, that period of time. So yeah, I just had time to sit and meddle with my thoughts and also just reflect. Through that reflection, God would slowly unravel and show me just man, there's a lot of development that needs to be done, and that's what's funny. It's not that these are things that need to be added onto you; they just need to be brought back, restored. You're comfortable in your brokenness. You found joy in it. That's your appetite now. So to get this is going to make sense as I break in how we started attending church together. Cool. I had a form of godliness. I thought I knew Him. I knew religion. I knew saying,
rules,
saying
regulations.
My faith was very backed and found on my mother's faith. She's a prayer warrior. She's a powerful woman of God. So that was what I accredited my faith to. Like, yeah, I'm a Christian. I know Jesus, such and such. So we came to church together, and very quickly I found out that, man, anyhow, I told you I was struggling with some things. When God showed me the cruelty, the negativity of my ways of thinking and all of that, He also, what really caught my attention was how He still loved me through it. How through all of this selfishness, through all of this arrogance, He still was drawing up ways to bring me back home. You know what I mean? Like, in His divine being, He was just giving me opportunity after opportunity, deep love. Like, I wasn't going after Him. I was going after my own initiatives, my own ambitions. He came after me. So, that kind of finally hit me. So as not even after we got baptized, before we got baptized, we decided all of these things, we just jumped in it and then did it. We thought we were being pushed, and we felt like these things were the right things to do. We're maturing. We're stepping out of high school. We're becoming men. So we're trying to establish something. But God had His own plans in store, and we're witnessing that along the way. But yeah, so get baptized. Immediately to getting baptized, I knew I had to get my relationship with God straight, meaning that I cannot be indulging in two things, my way and His way. His love was already solidified to me. Like, He loves me. We hear it. It sounds like a cliche, but it was right in front of my face. It's not something that I could ignore. So that's where the passion and the deep devotion to God truly came from the fact that He knows me better than anyone. At times when I don't feel valuable, I don't necessarily feel like I matter. He, especially during those seasons where I was not only felt that way, I was reflecting it in my actions. He came after me. He loved me. He protected me. He was there through and through. So now, that's like my anchor, man, where I just understand His love for me. I understand not only how much He loved me in the past, but how much He has for me in the future. So that's part of my testimony. Just finding out that His love is not superficial. We're worth dying for to Him. The gospel.
So in both of your journeys, you guys mentioned a clear line between one or the other. How can you, and this goes into the true message, how can you guys determine what is, I have the question right here. How do you know if the spirit is the right spirit?
Wow.
like how can you detest, or how can you test the spirit, or how can you know if the spirit is something of what you were in the past and what you was holding on to versus what God is trying to show you in the journey God is taking you on right now?
I would like to say, if you don't mind, I would like to say, I personally believe that to know if the spirit is the right spirit is out of uncomfortability.
Wow.
Stepping out of like what I'm used to and my comfort zone and jumping into things that are new, and like, cause like from like, I mean, being like in the streets and stuff like that, the most we would talk about God is like swearing. Like, we don't talk about church and God, and
That's not funny.
like, so for me to step out of my comfort zone of that and to be in the church and be open to people about what happened to me and why I'm here. I growing up, like, you almost can't trust nobody. That's like the mindset that the world is currently instilled with, that like that people that you're around is untrustworthy. So I went in with the open heart, willing to tell my testimony with whatever it came with, and it didn't come with nothing but, like he said, love. Like community. Like the community is the biggest part of what kept me there. Community, the love that I don't only have to go to him, but I have another brother over here that can help me in the situation. I have another brother over here that has more wisdom on the situation, that's more seasoned with this situation. You know what I'm saying? So just being able to be around men and women that can comfort you, I feel like that's where I was able to test that this is the spirit that I need to grow.
But what about it? What was the root makeup of it? Because you mentioned uncomfortability, and then you mentioned you found the group. But what was it that led you to know, hey, this group is it versus another group?
Right.
Well, I would say it would be like the access of me stepping out. I mean, I was going to the men's meets. It was me getting in those uncomfortable places of me going to the men's meets and meeting people that I didn't know. Them telling me stories and me relating to us being uncomfortable in the space and us relating like, dang, you went through something that I'm not even as open to speak on. So I see them speaking on it, and it made me willing to speak on my testimony. It made me willing to be in the space and just want to be surrounded more. I feel like truly, like, the root was me stepping out of my comfort zone and finding community and just seeing that these people are like honest and true people, and that it just wasn't for a moment. That it's still going on now. Like, it hasn't stopped. And I know that it bears fruit, and I know that there are people that I can
keep in mind to that. Keep in mind to that. Go ahead.
For one, that was beautiful, and I'll just add on to that.
Add on to it and say how, and say how can. Answer the question. How can you test if the spirit is the right spirit?
Perfect. So, in addition to what you said, we got fortunate where we found the right home. I can confidently say that we found the right home, and also we found the true and one only living God. There's a lot of counterfeits and a lot of things out there. We understand that. So, in relation to us, we got lucky, I would say, where we found the place. It was a truthful place. And this place also pointed us in the right direction of Christ. Awesome. But there are people who don't encounter that same situation. Sometimes the foundation is faulty. That's what it starts off on. And speaking to that, and how can someone find the truth and know the proper spirit, the right spirit? Man, it takes uncomfortability, not conforming to that. Even as a Christian, we ask questions. Even as a Christian, we're in the Word and we're backing things up. We're learning.
Okay,
Because
yeah,
there's a process of learning and unlearning. We're watching sermons, we're hearing teachings, we're learning, but we're backing it up by the Word. We have to stand on the Word, because other than that, there's a million methods.
I didn't realize you had the Bible. Is that
Yeah.
I didn't realize you had your Bible. That's crazy what my man said. It's right here. That's fire. That's fire.
So
I didn't even realize it. When did I didn't? Wow, go.
I came with it.
I didn't even know.
I didn't even know. The pastor always say you can cast out a demon with a phone.
Yeah, that's what it's funny saying. Absolutely. So, dang man. Okay, I was saying.
Hit him with the book.
I was saying that. Yeah, there's a lot of methods. You can ask someone else the same question, and they'll tell you a list of things to do to know the truth. But honestly, it's the Word. To make it very simple for someone watching and they really want to know, it's the Word. You got to go back and you got to read your Word, and you have to read it in your spirit so that it can register. And when you run into something, because we're always going to run into something that's not truth, but it sounds like it feels like it bears witness, it resonates with us. But if it contradicts this, it's an error. So in addition to that, something I can say is, going back to the comfortability aspect, you have to be willing to go through fire. I know, like, we don't we as humans love comfort. We love creature comforts and things of that sort. We like to feel good, but I like to feel good. But one of the best ways to get to a place of feeling good is by first going through the fire, or else you're not getting everything that you could truly have gotten out of life. So if I want to know the truth, if I were to make sure that what I'm standing on is solid, it has to be tested. It has to be put through stuff, and then we'll see what bears fruit and what wavers.
Yeah, and I like that you guys mentioned bear fruit, and you mentioned the Word. You mentioned going back to it, because it's learned through the Word. Because my spiritual father told me this thing: how you can truly test the spirit is something as simple as you reading something from the Word. He said that the core way to find it is you test it by its fruits.
Wow.
And many times we think somebody's bearing good fruit, but no, in actuality it's just bad fruit. That's just like, imagine in today's world. Yeah. We think we're eating a banana, but it's not really a true banana. It's not really the right. It's not really the true fruit. So you test the spirit to know it's the right spirit by its fruits. Is it truly carrying patience, peace, love, long suffering, all these things? And many times people don't even know how to carry it or even commit to carrying it. So it may throw a facade on, hey, I'm carrying the fruits of the spirit. You see the fruits of the spirit, but down the line they're so easy to drop the fruit to drop the fruit and throw it out the window and carry the complete opposite of that. Right. Yeah. Because, like, God spoke to me one day, or he was teaching me as I was reading, and I mentioned commitment to carrying the fruits of the spirit, because if you look at this, people are so quick to throw it out and do this and do that because they're not committed to it, because it's not truly, like, your body is like a ground. Like, it was made out of clay, made out of dirt and everything. Yeah. So consider, he was speaking to me in a way, or teaching me in a way, where look at your body as if it was the ground. And many times, depending on where you're from, where you're located, culture, however you want to spin it, sometimes our ground is full of gravel. Sometimes our ground was cultivated right because of our experience, because of our environment. But if it's not, you have to put more work than the other person to cultivate your ground. And he taught me it in that way, because we have to carry the fruits of the spirit and commit to it, because in order for our ground to be right and for our spirit to be right and everything, so we can build our foundation and do everything, we have think of like fertilizer. You make fertilizer by combining different fruits, different vegetables, and all these things. And once it truly fuses, you can't separate it at that point. Many times people take it out before it meshes, before it fully fuses with them. And that's how you can truly test the right spirit, because they're carrying the fruits, and you see they're committed to carrying the fruit.
I love that you use the word committed, because speaking to the fruits of the spirit, yes, it's a list of things Galatians 5 gave us, but ultimately it goes back to one word, and that's love. it's love.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like a tree. The tree, the root is love, and then it's spread out in all these different ways: patience, kindness, gentleness, things of that sort. So it's founded on love. So I say that to make it simple for someone who hears all these words and is maybe thinking like, "Dang, I don't have all of this. I don't bear all of this."
Yeah, and go ahead.
What I was going to say is, where are your motives and your actions coming from? Is it coming from love or something else? That's how you always test the spirit of things, but even testing yourself. Of am I in error, or just exactly what am I doing? Is it coming from a place of love, pure intentions?
Yeah, and one thing that kind of spoke to me when you were saying that is, you mentioned love, you mentioned all these things, and damn, I almost lost my train of thought. Basically, dang, oh my god, I almost lost my train of thought, because that's why I wanted to jump in, because basically you speaking on love, you speaking on all these things, and oh my god, I'm so mad. This happens all the time. Basically when because we spoke about commitment to the Spirit, we spoke about all these things, you mentioned love, you mentioned commitment to the Spirit. I lost it. Okay, I wanted to jump in.
I'm gonna speak it and hopefully it comes back. And I'm just going off the dome, going back to the point I was making of the fruits of the Spirit. We're not going to always have it all together. So because you can very much, a person can ask themselves, or they can ask another person, am I a true Christian? How do I know if I'm a true Christian? The firm foundation of that is, have you accepted Christ as your Lord and Savior and declare it? Cool. But also, like, I know there's people who's accepted Christ and they're outside doing whatever. They're still living a lukewarm life, doing all of these things. How do I know I'm a true Christian? Going back to the fruits, but also as we're in this sanctification process and being developed and matured and all of this, because there's never a point in life where we're going to have it all figured out and put together. But my actions, where is it coming from? This is how we grow. This is how we get to a place where we're becoming better Christ figures, Christians. Where the fruit is love. Where are the things I'm doing coming from? I know I'm in the club, and this isn't me to condone this. We're not condoning any of that, but is me being in the club, is that coming from love or my own selfish desires? Test that.
See, I found it. I got it. So when you said that, it's because, all right, you said the root of it is love. Yeah. Right? And people try to discern and test the Spirit by carrying the fruits of the Spirit and all this nature, and they have their preconceived notion on love and everything else on the fruits of the Spirit. The other fruits of the Spirit are, I'm going to actually pull it up. Patience, love, kindness, long suffering, joy, and you name it. And I'm going to put up there. The main thing I want to highlight is kindness. Is being kind. People have a preconceived notion on, and when I learned this, it blew my mind. That's why I was so mad I lost it. So I'm so serious. So people already have the preconceived notion on love and all these things. When love is not an action, it's a personality and things of that nature. Like you carry love as a personality trait. But kindness. Do you think kindness and being nice are the same thing?
Kindness and being nice. I'll let you talk.
I just caught the same revelation not too long ago where it's not. Cause
go ahead. If you know it, oh my God, go ahead.
Okay, hopefully I'm right.
Go ahead.
So there is this thing regarding Christians, and a lot of people have this this assumption that Christ was a nice guy. He was, of course, but
he was also kind. He was nice.
He was kind, but also nice is our definition of nice is flattery. It's faking it. It's all of these things.
Yes, it's coming from a place of ignorance, where you wronged me, I'm gonna be nice. This or you do this, I'm gonna still be nice. I'm gonna still have the benefit. Nah, man, you gotta use wisdom. You gotta know when to get people along road. You gotta know when to do all these things.
Be honest, that's not too strong. Meaning our God, Christ, was strong.
And kindness is knowing love. Is you mentioned knowing the root of everything, knowing your morals, knowing what you stand on, knowing what is right, and you learn what is right by looking at the Bible and all these things. Because when somebody does something that goes against it, that goes against the will God has for your life, it goes against being righteous and tries to do something that causes you to walk in sin or be separated from God, you have to not be nice.
Yeah.
Jesus flipped the table, bro. Like, that's not nice.
Yeah.
If he was nice, Jesus would have been like, hey, stop selling, take it outside. Nah. And he flipped the table.
Can I add on to that?
Go ahead.
And this is so profound. Because to be nice is to be comfortable. It's to be to make sure that
everything is pleasant.
And I don't go too far on edge. I heard this quote from the sermon I was watching, and he simply said, "Comfortable people don't cause change." So, and if Christ was nice, how would he have done the impactful work that he did? You brought to him flipping the tables in the temple. If he was trying to be comfortable. And he neglected to do that. He wasn't obedient to his father. What change would have came from that? Comfortable people don't cause change. You have to be willing to again step into the fire and do the hard things.
Yeah, step into all these things when you're in life, in business. Yeah, all these things that are translated from learning and being a believer in Christ are meant to help you live a better life, man. Wow. Like many times people look at being a believer in Christ, and the reason why I say believer in Christ is because I learned this revelation from my spiritual father. Yeah. Like pagans called us Christians. Yeah. So instead of going off of the name they gave us, just go off as you're a believer in Christ instead of a Christian. Yeah. But that's like a side note, and you learn that as you learn the history of Christianity. But all these things are meant to help you carry and move and be better in life. Like, it's not because we're trying to be perfect, and sometimes people are trying to make Christianity seem as if it's some perfect thing, and they want to quote the Bible and everything they do. Granted, it's do it. That helps you water your seeds and helps you be one with the commitment of carrying the fruits of the Spirit, carrying the personality of Christ, and all these things. But sometimes it's coming with the embracing the uncomfortableness. How Job felt in his experiences. Like, it's not going to be easy. We make things sound easy as carrying the fruits of the Spirit, doing all these things, but you're going to go through journeys you was uncomfortable. You was going through all these things. You went through these mental battles, but it's not going to be pleasant. No. Like Job had alopecia, whatever, like he went hives or whatever, but he still knew his foundation in Christ. He still knew that he can't shake from that. He can be honest in his feelings and his emotions, but use what he learned and use what he took from being in God and learning from God to carry that into life. Man,
I love that because like in Matthew 4, when Jesus was tested, I believe it was Matthew 4 or was it 3?
Yeah. When he was in the wilderness, right?
It's 5 because 6 is when the Lord's Prayer, 33.
Exactly.
So So in Matthew 5 when he was tested on the mount, when he was tested and the serpent or Satan, he came to Jesus, but Jesus had that foundation of his Lord and the Word in his heart. Man cannot live off bread alone, but so like Jesus had that foundation in his heart and was tested, and I love that so much because He came on earth in flesh and experienced everything we experienced. So when he's preaching these sermons, when he's coming to us, not necessarily like purposely to condemn, but like even correcting us from the things that we're doing, it's at a place from relating to us. It's not like he's not just of course he's speaking from a high pedestal because he's the Son of the Father, but he's speaking from a place of I'm where you are and I'm able to do this. If I can do it, so can you. That's good. You know what I'm saying? So, that's great.
I want to ask you this question, and we can, as we wrap things up, I like asking this question when it comes to people who go to church or even just people who are seeking and growing their knowledge. What was the most iconic message or lesson you learned in your life? It could be a sermon you got from being in church. It could be something you learned from a book. What was the most iconic message or piece of knowledge, lesson that you learned?
It's gonna be difficult for me to point what as far as ranking goes. I'm not gonna be able to point out what was
that's why I said iconic. Like anything where you think about it, it's like, okay.
Shoot,
I'm glad I learned that.
And you mentioned it, perfection. That's not the goal. Christ is. We're not. Once that understanding came and that burden got lifted, where we're not aiming for perfection. I'm not aiming to have it all together. I'm aiming to be more like him every single day. However way that goes, if it's a percent or it's this big jump, it's 10%, however way it happens, I'm just looking forward to developing and growing into the image he has for me, who he's ordained me to be. So yeah, that's something I carry every day, because I do have ambitions, and I do have these idealistic thoughts in ways I wish things should be, but ultimately it's not up to me. So when those anxious thoughts and that overthinking start to slip back in, I get back to a place where it's not about that. You're not the author of your story. God is. So just going back to, I don't have to have it all figured out. I don't have to be perfect. I just have to submit. And he'll figure it out. He's sorting out a mess. He's making things work out for our good. I just have to submit. It's not about perfection. It's about Christ.
Amen.
I would like to even add value to that, because I would say, like, an iconic thing for me would be the reflection of Christ, like, and just having that light shine through you. Like, I have a strong heart for drawing people near to Christ. I just love just bringing anybody new, wherever you came from, to experience this feeling that I felt. And it was just the other day where a guy came in the church. A guy texted me about our church that I knew him from someone else, and he had texted us about our church to, come and visit or whatever. And I gave him like just a synopsis of what the church consists of and why I like it so much and stuff. So he said, okay, cool, I'm gonna come and visit. So a guy came in that I thought looked like him, and I greeted him with just like with love, like I knew him, because I knew the guy he texted me. I greeted him with love.
He was like, "Hey, Josh, man, welcome, bro. These the guys." Good.
Like, I introduced them to my friends. I was like, "Hey, man, like, service is gonna be good. Right after service, you can come right out here and meet me, and I can introduce you to the pastor personally." Like, So a few moments later, the actual person came in, and I'm like, "Oh, snap! I thought it was you." So I did the same thing. I gave him the same thing, but it was just,
I just connected. I'm like, whoa, wait, that was the person.
That wasn't even him. So he looked like him. So boom.
Well, guess what?
So he introduced two people to the pastor of the church. Wow.
So boom. So I introduced them to my friends too, the actual guy, and then after church, we ended up meeting with that the person that I was supposed to meet with, and of course I introduced him to the pastor too. But lastly, the guy that I met that I thought was him, his name is Justice. I thought was him. He walked up, and he was like one of the last ones walking out. And I still did that introduction to him and the pastor and stuff like that. He's in college right now. He's getting ready for the combine.
Oh wow!
Transition. So he's getting ready for that. Okay. And both of them are in college, play football. Literally have the team red. Their team is red and white. Like they
it's so great.
So it's so crazy. So the next time he came, he was like, "Yeah, man, I came back because like the moment I walked in the door, man, I received so much love, and like and that's like the love that Christ reflects. Like that's like a reflection. So I just have a super passion just for that alone. Like they talk about it, but experiences, like when you experience it and like just actually experience what they're speaking on in the Bible, and not just what you hear, but it come into fruition. Like that's
fine. That's fine, man.
Let me note something on top of that. Where before we wrap up, something I wanted to point back to that it just came to mind. You mentioned something about when we come to Christ, we're trying to balance out our relationships. Who should I cut off? Who should I stay and try my best to influence? And that's something you mentioned earlier. And what I had in mind as you were saying that, I believe that for one, it's important to have discernment and truly seek God's will in every relationship and every, not just relationship, business deal, the things that we're doing. Because when you come to Christ, when you go through being saved, there's a flip. People saying you're supposed to go from here to this person and whatever timeline they may put on you. So you have to balance out these things. And I just want you to know that coming to Christ does not mean I have to change my entire friend group. I have to change my job situation. There's things that are outside of our control. You can't change your family. You have a family of choice, yes, but you can't change your family of origin. So I just want to go back to Matthew 5, where Jesus calls us the salt of the earth. He calls us the light on the hill. We cannot be hidden, he says. So when God saved us, he loves us, yes, but the reality is, man, there's people who will never experience Christ. They'll never be saved, unfortunately. But God, and it's evident in my life, in his life, he's intentional about some people. He comes after them. He's tugging on them. He puts them through experiences, puts them through things to wake up, come home. And with that being said, it's not for your personal sake. It's not just simply for your own selfish reasons. It's because he can use us as instruments, as funnels to go and get the next person. This isn't to boast or pat ourselves on the back, but we've given our lives to God, and there's just so much impact we bear. We have a young adults connect group. We're just doing things by God's grace, and it's spreading. Things are happening through us by God. So like when you come to Christ, when you make that salvation, when you accept him, if you have already had, it wasn't to change you completely. It's to restore you. It's to make you better. But you have to remember that he didn't save you to put you on the shelf. He saved you. He's then going to develop you, but then he's going to send you out. There's a commission, and you be as a disciple.
Yeah, there's work you need to do.
And now you're then going on to make other disciples. You're then going on to building things for him, whether that be in the marketplace, business, or that's in ministry. Whatever it looks like, you're not meant to go and be hidden. So even with relationships, there's some people it's not going to happen for them immediately. They're not going to give their life to God just because you did it. It's going to take a process. God doesn't. Oftentimes we need to process. God doesn't want you to exit their life. He wants you to continue to, with discernment, influence them as much as you can. He'll do the rest. He does the saving. Yeah. But we're just planting the seeds, and we're having those impacts in our relationships.
Yeah, I like it.
I'd even like to add value to that based off talking about being a friend today. We're watching a collection on Keith Craft about just the values that men need to have and things of that nature. And it's just like, even like that's another thing I would like people to know, because it's like, you don't necessarily, we were called to be separate, but we weren't called to isolate.
Ooh,
even we had a pastor that says that it's a difference between isolation and solitude. So isolation is almost isolating yourself not only away from people, but from God, like taking on the mantle of I can do this on my own, versus solitude is a place that God puts you in to take time for him. When we set off and we close the doors and we pray, we're in solitude with God. We're not isolated from him. So like though we're called to separate, we don't necessarily have to befriend anyone, because befriending someone is almost like losing them in the system, like how I said. So like, I'm not sure if you like went to any like concerts or anything like that where they give you the thing about the child that's in Africa and that you can pay for them.
Oh yeah, like the donation stuff.
Right, like and if you take the paper and you don't do any of it, that child gets lost in the system. That's the truth. That's what they say. That's what they say. Like if you take the paper and you say you don't sign it, you take the paper like out of conviction and you don't sign up for it and you just keep it. You don't give it back or nothing like that. Like that child get lost in the system. Like that child can no longer be funded, or that case. So that's how I look at like befriending yourself from anyone that you possibly knew, because we were called to seek out and spread the word. Because it's like, if you befriend the person, then it's like, how could that person ever find Christ when you could be the only person that they could find Christ from? Like some people, like even like my friends and stuff like that, like I'm probably church to them. When I speak to them.
Yeah. And so and it's not a problem with that, because my spiritual father even said it, where it's like some people are ordained or anointed to go out there because even their pastor or their overseer or their prophet can't reach people that you can reach, that I can reach, that you can reach. So it's just to make sure you're equipped and make sure you touch the people that surround you, man.
Yeah. True. So I just valued a lot the fact that they said they like everybody could like take a test to it, because it's like you don't have to walk away from a relationship. Always have that open door, even if they walk away from you.
We're just talking about
that's what I'm saying. Even if they walk away from you because of what you're doing, like by the grace of God, they will respect it. But even if they walk away from you, always have that open door, because you never know that revelation that could cross their mind, whether it's 10 years down the line or whether it's 20 minutes.
The fruit in you,
your
life transform.
You know, my spiritual father says, don't cut somebody off. You just walk in wisdom and walk with discernment. That's and good. God is going to remove them out of your life when it's time to remove them.
We leave it up to him, bro. We leave it up to him.
Hey, awesome. I want to wrap things up, but I want to wrap things up, but I do want to extend an invitation out to you guys to my church, man. Like, I know you guys have your own service. I know you guys have your own home church. I
love the wisdom.
Like,
you gotta beat that guy, man.
Yeah, man. Prophet Dr. Kevin at the Worldwide Kingdom Ministry, man. I love that, man. I love my co-seer, his wife, Prophetess Melissa C. did on there. They made me the man I am today, man.
That's awesome, bro.
They gave me the wisdom. God. They gave me the knowledge on from their doctrine on marriage, on what is a man, what is a woman, how to carry yourself, everything that made me the person I am today, and I'm thankful for that, man.
Okay.
So yeah, well, off the record, I'll let you know. Of course, if you guys want to come to, my camera's right here. I was looking at that one, but if you guys want to come to, link is gonna be in the description. But yeah, man, I hope to see you one of these days, man.
Absolutely, my guy.
At the end of the day, my name is Olivier J. Darcis. I'm with my man Kendall.
Yeah.
I'm with my man Antonio.
Yes, sir.
We're here helping you do to do life well.
Amen.
And do it with God.
Praise God.
Peace.